So funny. Well, I'm so glad that you're here with me today. So before I introduce you, Stacy, I want to just give my weekly digital marketing tips. So this week, actually, it's a combination of a tip and an announcement. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see if this works. It didn't allow me to share my screen yet. Hang on one sec. Share my screen. All right. Do you see a slide now, Amy Porterfield slide?
I do.
Yay. All right. So this is just, it's one of my favorite slides because I love the idea of like old-fashioned notes and then just knowing that we have to use email, right? And so a lot of people right now in September, I've had so many conversations over the past couple of days, email, and a lot of people's emails are going into spam is one thing. The other thing is they're just not getting read, even if they're there. There's so much noise out there, and it is not lost on me that as a digital marketer, I also try to practice digital minimalism. However, there are people I clue into. And some of the things I want to do is talk about for my entrepreneurs is just kind of how to grow your list and to grow your list with authenticity so that people are really looking forward to what it is you have to share. So today I'm just going to give a couple of quick next week, I'll be doing a free webinar in this time slot on the 10 o'clock Thursday. I'm doing a free quick webinar, about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and I'm going to be offering 20 tips on growing your list, and I'm going to give, I think, 3 of them here this morning. One is if you haven't already, go ahead and install the Sign Up app on your Facebook page. And that way people will know. I just want to, even before I start with these tips fully, I want to just remind people that people are rarely signing up for newsletters these days. Like, who wants another newsletter? I mean, I do because I'm like learning all the time and I want to know from all the people I know. But in general, people are waiting to get something first for joining your newsletter. So, I mean, during the call too, we'll talk about lead generators when I talk about that next week. So have a lead generator, have a reason for people to get on your list, and then keep inviting them. Install the app on your Facebook page. Use the call to action button on your Facebook page. Instead of having a learn more button there, you can say sign up now as your action button on Facebook. Don't forget to put your email signature at the bottom of your regular Gmail or Outlook email so that people will sign up for your newsletter. And again, this one I don't love. It says join our mailing list. Who's going to do that? But you could say, get my 10 tips to blah, 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 right? Or here, download my video, my 30-second video on why to grow your email list. So use your email signature. Used text to sign up. Every time I'm in front of people in a workshop or at a networking event, I do ask people to take out their phones and type my code, which is nurture, type nurture to 22828, and then they get on my automated sequence and they're going to receive a digital marketing assessment. And so this is going to be the agenda next week. I hope you guys will join me. It's going to be super quick, 20 ways. If you want to, you can either join live or you can email me and I'll send you the slides or whatever so that you'll get the tips too. So I hope those tips were helpful. But now let's get to what I love to do on my Thursday mornings, which is talk to somebody interesting. And today that is Stacy Shipman. I'm going to give a quick bio. Stacy, this is why I love her. Other than her curly hair, this is why I love Stacy. Stacy believes in people and their ideas. I could stop right there.
Yeah, like, stop right there. Yes.
As the founder of Engage the Room, she helps health, wellness, and purpose-driven professionals and companies get their message across more powerfully in all types of settings. So as a result, they take more risks, build better relationships, lead positive change, and bring ideas to life. So good. And in addition, Stacy has this really great podcast. If you guys haven't listened to it yet, check it out, Engaging Voices Podcast. And guess what? She's also living out her childhood dream to become a singer. She just recently sang solo in her 4th voice recital. And when I asked Stacy what her superpower was, she said it's getting people to say, yes, I can. I'm so excited to talk to you today more, Stacy, about all of this. All of it.
Thank you, Susan.
Tell me more about the work you do with Engage the Room.
It's about helping people communicate better. I mean, that's the overarching theme. But really, from my perspective, it's about sharing our message, creating meaningful connections with people, and turning everyday, ordinary meetings, whether that's a chance meeting or a networking meeting or a formal meeting, into a meaningful experience. Because, to your point, when you were giving your tips and all the noise that we're dealing with out there, it's how do you really, from your perspective, it's how do you rise above the noise? From my perspective, it's how do you engage the room? And my work in terms of the room is the in-person room. So that's why I'm going to love this conversation, because our work is so complementary. But it's really, how do you cut through? Because when I'm working with folks one-on-one or in groups, I mean, there's so much distraction. Even though we're face-to-face, there's the phone calls and the text that's dinging in on the computer.
Yes.
And so it's really becomes, how can you communicate your message and who you are in a natural, authentic, engaging way that gets the results that you want.
So, yeah.
And I'll share a story. I can share a story that I use in all of my programs. It's the opening story in anything I do that really I think it sets the tone and gives an idea of where I'm coming from for this.
Tell me.
I had met with a colleague. This was a couple of years ago, but my colleague Jackie and I met at a local Panera because we were catching up on business, hadn't talked to each other in a while. And it was a beautiful day. We found a table outside. I had a purple water bottle, actually this purple water bottle, sitting on the table. And we were talking about the ups and downs of being a business owner, which I'm sure, as you know, Susan, can have good days and not so good days.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody listening. We were on the not so good days. So our mood was, and our attitude was less than good. And I could feel my body like slumping in my chair, and just, it was all not very nice. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw this young girl stop by our table. She had this lavender dress, curly hair, hands on her hips, and she was standing so tall. She pointed at my water bottle and said, "I like your purple water bottle." And, okay, well, thank you. And her mom said she noticed it a half an hour ago through the window, and it's all she could talk about.
Wow.
And I looked back and I said, "Well, is purple your favorite color?" And she said, "Yes, purple's my favorite color." And I said, "Well, it's my favorite color too." And with that, they walked away. The girl and her mom walked away. But I was so captivated by her that I turned in my chair to watch them go. And when I did that, the young girl looked back at Jackie and me and blew us a kiss.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, "Oh my God, Jackie, did you see that? She just blew us a kiss." And my mood changed instantly. I was sitting taller in my chair, and I was trying to figure out if I had time to go buy her own purple water bottle. And I thought about this interaction in the days that followed, especially given the work that I do. I was like, what about that was so impactful and so meaningful? And it was the whole package. She courageously showed up at a table, inserted herself into a conversation of strangers without a care in the world because she had something so important to share. And then when she said it, it was clear and allowed space for me to enter the conversation. And then the most impactful was that kiss, because it let me know that she cared, right? She reached back out, and I was like, oh my God. And I truly believe that without that kiss, that would have been another ordinary, "Oh, isn't that cute?" interaction. But I think that happened 3 or 4 years ago now. And I still talk about it. And I still remember it. And I will probably never see that young girl again. And if I did, I wouldn't recognize her.
Right.
But the impact that she had on me in that moment and today, and on audiences that I speak to, because I get to share that experience, she turned an ordinary meeting into a meaningful and memorable interaction that changed my thinking. It changed how I was feeling in that moment, and it influenced my behavior because I wanted to buy her that water bottle.
Yes.
Without her asking me. And when we are selling as business owners and professionals, we're always selling. We're selling services, we're selling programs, we're selling ideas. And if we, especially today, do not know how to do that courageously, clearly, and in a caring and connected way, then we will not have the results that we want. They'll be ho-hum. And it's hard. It's hard to do all of that.
So, gosh, I can't wait to go back and listen to this and write it down. That was so good. So tell me more. So you took that into the meaning more, we must do it with meaningful and with impact and with caring. So
and
how does that, and courage, how does that translate? And I know that you do, I work mostly with solopreneurs, and you're in more, you also work with heart-centered entrepreneurs, but also in more corporate settings. Like, how does that translate into, I have to say, honestly, I work in a more feminine energy I would say, but also I've been in the corporate and I've seen that energy, and I've been told not to use certain language, not to, the language you're not supposed to use in the masculine energy. But I think what I'm hearing you say is maybe if people brought that kind of energy in, they might have more meaningful interactions.
So I come from a corporate world as well, and still work with, like you said, I work with the solo professionals, and I also work with companies. Most of my clients, and we were talking about this before we went live, are data focused and super creative. So whether they work internally in a company or they used to work internally and now they've started a business that is more creative or more purpose driven, they're still in this mindset of numbers, data, science, certain language, certain way of presenting ourselves. I come from that world, that data focused market research, analytical space, and it has been my journey to not let that go entirely, but to bring more heart into everything that I do. And that's so if I'm working with someone who's heavy on data, my job is to shift them into their heart, because we connect from there. We don't connect with numbers and knowledge and data. If I'm working with someone who's heavier on the heart, then my job is to bring in some more grounding and logic and data to back up the emotional component. But in the corporate world, or in more of a business setting, the way that caring, or the metaphor for the kiss, if you will, it can show up in active listening versus problem solving and distraction. That shows that you care for people. It can show up in the stories that you're telling that say, hey, I get it. I've been there. I get your struggle. And here's how I'm going to get you through it, because I've done this before. So we build trust in that way. And it could be even bringing in, it could be something as silly as like bringing lunch into a meeting, right? It's like, hey, I know that it's busy and I'm asking you to meet at noon. So here's some lunch, like while we get this done. So there's different ways to give people a kiss and show that we care.
Yes.
And that's a lot of what I teach when I do my corporate work is listening is a big one, a big one.
So, okay. So now my head is going into, so great. And also I'm glad I'm not in corporate anymore. Yeah. Was my other thought, because I was picturing all those lunchtime meetings with no food, reaching into my bag for my almonds.
Crunch, crunch, crunch.
Oh yeah. But here's an interesting thing is while you're talking about that, and I always try to learn from the people that I interview, how can I translate this into the work that I do with my clients, right? And so many of my clients do live here, and they're trying to manifest their success with their heart and with their caring. And and also they're very sensitive to energy. And so internet might seem heavy to them. Sometimes even networking is heavy to them. But on the other hand, how do you grow your business without communicating? And so to your point, a lot of times that's what I have to do is take this and bring it into, but why are you posting this post? What is the email? What are the people, how many people are clicking through and why are they clicking through? And are you putting this up just because it feels good, or are you trying? So there's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And so there's the data. And I think you and I were talking before this about my own journey through this. I'm a scientist. I was a food scientist, quality control manager, set up processes, looked at all the numbers, right? Did all of the whatevers. And even still, when I'm looking at my clients' programs, I'm going right to their analytics. I'm going right to their insights. We're looking at conversion rates because it's important. And I do like that. And when I post, one of the reasons I was drawn to digital marketing was because I had the opportunity to put all my thoughts in order and then push them out. But I know that when I show up, as you're saying, with caring and being silly or just like making a mistake and saying, all right, I passed it. If you're more authentic, but also looking at the digital results.
The other thing too, now that you're talking about it, with the heart-centered person who kind of leads from there, two things that I've seen when I am interacting with them or working with them, and I don't know, you can tell me if you've seen this or not. But if you think about that story, she was excited about her idea. Then she showed up, and I use the word courageously very purposefully. She was clear in her communication and caring in, her reach out. And often what I see in that population is a fear of being seen. Yeah. So they're not showing up as courageously or authentically as they could. And they end up sounding and looking like everybody else. They're not as clear in their communication because there is so much that they're excited about that distilling the message is difficult. And I have that problem too. It's like, I have all this great information, yes. I want to share all of it. So we have to be really concise and clear in our messaging. And the caring, yes, they care. There's so much internal caring, but what I see not happening a lot is the and I see this in corporate too, but the continuous staying in touch. Now you're a master at that because you have your email list and you have your Facebook group and you are constantly out there connecting and staying in touch with people, offering information and all of that. But a lot of people, I'm thinking about when I've gone for like massage, right? And so you go in, you've got ailments, you're like, take care of me, fix me, right? And then they do, and you're like, that was amazing. Wow, wouldn't it be nice if a few days later I got an email or a phone call that said, hey, I wanted to check in on you, see how you were doing. If I can help you again, give me a call, kind of thing. That never, literally never happens. So when I think about that population and the caring, I think it's connected to the fear of being seen or not wanting to bother people.
Well, that's the thing, not wanting to bother.
And I suffered with that too. Yeah. But as someone who was, especially if someone leaves like so thankful and grateful because you helped them, like that's a client you want to keep coming back or get referrals from. So that constant and consistent staying in touch with people. You don't have to sell them anything. It's just a simple, hey, I wanted to check in and see how that shoulder's doing. Are you still feeling good? Yeah. Can make a big difference in your brand, in your ability to cut through the noise and engage people, because now you're top of mind, you're memorable. That's your kiss.
So good. Oh, that's so good. And it's so true. And I know, again, that two things that you said. One is that people don't want to bother people in their email. And I hear that all of the time. And just know, like, if that's your thing, know that people can ignore you, but at least you're showing up and they're seeing your name. They can unsubscribe. They can ask you, please don't email me, but just at least show up in a giving, caring, courageous way. And the other thing that I want that people say is they don't have time for that. And that's why I really focus on systems, like systems that make it easy so that when you have time for your deep work, you set your time, right? You set your timer for half an hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You do what you need to do to follow up, to give them that kiss, and then you can step away and let it work its magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm a kick butt with compassion kind of person. So I would even challenge that concept of I don't have time to stay in touch. If you're running a business, you better have time to stay in touch with your clients because it's how they're going to keep coming back. I mean, when I send a note to my clients, when I send an email, I mean, almost always perfect timing. I was just thinking about reaching out. Whether they were or not, I don't know, but it was my touch point that said, hey, checking in, just wanted to see how your summer was,
Right.
That then leads to sometimes a conversion.
Right.
And so as business owners, that is a huge part of what we have to do.
I would say I always tell, before I start working with clients, I always recommend that they read the book, The Referral of a Lifetime by Tim Templeton.
I haven't heard that one yet.
Oh, it's so good. And it's a nice, quick, easy read. It's a story. And what I suggest is you read it quickly. Like, don't take notes. Don't highlight. Don't take notes. Don't fold the pages. No Post-its. Just read it. And then the next time go in and take notes. And exactly what you're talking about, those touch points, the kiss points. I've started using send out cards because I know email's noisy. And I also know that I'm really bad about getting a physical letter to the post office. And so send out cards is a perfect, and I'm not an affiliate or anything. I'm just saying it's made my life easier.
Yeah. We have to figure out the tools that are going to work. I personally like handwriting notes. So that is, a tool that I use, but yeah, we have to figure out what works in terms of the follow-up.
So good. Now tell me about your podcast.
Engaging Voices it started in April. I've done 22 episodes and
you've been busy.
I know it's been very busy, but it's really morphed into, and I think it probably was this from the beginning, but it's really about living and working with purpose. So I interview business owners and area leaders about courage and vulnerability, about creating relationships and a culture. If I'm talking with an internal leader, relationship building, communication. I mean, it's all the personal well-being and, staying healthy to run your business and manage your team. And it's really been a fantastic lineup of all different individuals from different walks of life, but who all are really passionate about improving the well-being of the people that they're serving, whether it's professional or personal. And it's just people have been so forthcoming and sharing their stories. It's not really a how-to podcast. It's more of a, hey, who are you and what makes you tick kind of podcast. And we get into their work a little bit, but it's really more around their story and their struggles and their what brings them joy. And it's been awesome. It's been awesome.
I feel like that's what you were always meant to do.
Well, my childhood dream was to entertain people. I wanted to be a singer, a dancer, a writer. And, a lot of what I do now is playing out in my work. So, and then coming from a research background, like I spent the first part of my career interviewing people, asking questions. And so it's a natural place for me to be. And actually, when you asked the superpower question, I was like, I don't know. I feel like I have a couple. Asking questions is a superpower. I think I tend to ask questions that other people are like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. So it's been a real joy for me. It's been a lot of work because I'm doing the editing and the interviewing and the reach out and all that myself right now.
Oh, that is a lot of work.
And I would like to shift that at least by 2020 because it is super time consuming. But it's been so much joy and a privilege. This goes back to getting your message out. It's a privilege to hear someone's story, to have that space. It's a privilege to be able to tell your story, to have for someone else to create the space. And really that's how we create connection. It's not from data. And so this is offering an opportunity to build, tell your story and create that connection with other people. And people are connecting. So that's awesome too.
It's awesome. Well, I listened, one of my favorites still, I haven't listened to your recent ones. They're queued up because I just downloaded a book to listen to because whatever, podcast, whatever. But I loved listening to you and Michael Katz. who I follow. I get his
Yeah.
weekly, whatever. I've been following him for years, and he's so likable, right? He's the likable expert, and he
Yes,
really
I
is
know.
truly
Mhm.
just feels like he's living in his flow
Mhm.
and helping small businesses really
Yeah.
connect. So that between the two of you, that was a really
Yeah,
good
that was
one
a fun
too.
one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how
Mhm.
can people tell us your email address? What can people do to get to know you a little bit better?
My website is engagetheroom.com.
Mm-hmm.
My email is stacy@engagetheroom.com. And I have, the podcast is there. You can read the blogs, to get to know me better. Because the blogs I tell personal stories. It's not I talk about my niece and my nephew and traveling with my husband and relate that back to business. So I think those are a great way to get to know me a little bit.
Nice.
And I have a newsletter that goes out every couple of weeks. You can sign up for there as well. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm less so on Facebook, but I am on Facebook. But that might change. We'll see. And I'm, let's meet in person. Like my work is all about the verbal communication and face-to-face interaction. That's the space where I live. That's where I want to live, and I want to connect with people who enjoy that space as well.
Well, I'm glad that we've connected. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Stacy.
Yeah, thank you
For showing up
been
with
awesome.
me. It has been. I'm going to shut these off. All right, you guys, check out Engage the Room and Engaging Voices podcasts.
And if I can, just your voice matters. Keep shining because the world needs it. We need bright lights out there.